It's one thing to run a family business, but how do you teach those concepts in an academic setting? We're on location at Boston University Questrom School of Business with lecturer Patrick Abouchalache, and welcome to the Language of Business.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. It's good to be with you.
Good to have you here. How do you teach family business best practices in a four-walled classroom?
We want our students to learn in a real life experience. So what happens is we look at values and purposes and frameworks and toolkits and group projects. We get them out there. For example, early on in one of my classes, the first governance document that I asked them to draft is their family constitution.
Very cool.
Then we talk about diversity. It's all around that. But I constantly mix and match them in different groups. And for their midterm project, I asked them to go out there and identify a family business that looks the farthest different, not from them, but themselves and 3 other classmates, and to come back and share with us key findings, challenges, then opportunities.
20 years ago, theory was saying it's rare for a family business to make it to the 3rd generation. Is that still the case today?
Again, I think the data is flawed. It's too much of a generalization itself. You look at family business itself dating back to since the dawn of creation, and you have to look at it not only from a Western perspective. You don't forget about that emerging world where over half of businesses are family businesses. Whether you're in the classroom or you have a research firm or you're running your own family business, I think you have to get the data right. And remember, families outside of the US and Europe might not be registered. They might not file a tax, But what happens when you have a family where you've got hundreds of family members? How do you juxtapose last names? It's really, really difficult. This is a data analytics side. But let me go into practice. What about that New York family, which has been in the restaurant business for 3 years? And one of the kids comes to the hotel school at BU. The other kid goes to the hotel school in Cornell. And then they decide that to go off on their own and start their own brand as Generation 4. What is it? In my definition, they're still in the family business and they're Gen 4 plus.
You said earlier that juxtaposing last names could be difficult. How would a family business react to bringing in outsiders in C-level positions?
Sure. Every day somebody wants me to give them a 3-word generalization. It doesn't exist. Who is at the table as we look at family business, and ownership? You really have to set your own, hopefully, policy of objectivity on hiring the best individual for that position, training them, and hopefully retaining them for a long time. That said, if the people who call the shots don't want diversification, myopically, it is what it is sometimes, where it's much harder to affect equitable change.
What advice would you have for parents who are thinking of bringing their children into the family business fold, or children who aren't quite sure what they want to do post-graduation?
Sure, keep it simple. Life is short. What a wonderful opportunity we have in this new world of ours of your parents, you're an uncle, you're an aunt. Spend time with your kids, with your nephews and nieces. Transparency. Don't be afraid as a parent or with your partner to take your kids to work. Talk to them. Be sensitive to their cues as they pick up different pieces of your business that they're interested in. I'll give you an example. My 14-year-old niece, she was 9 years old. She asked me, "Uncle Pat, I don't see you a lot. You're always on a plane. What do you do?" I wanted to keep it simple, as I still feel like a 5-year-old at the time. But what did I do? I said, I help families or individuals manage their money. Her immediate answer, God bless her, that sounds boring. Still be attentive to those cues. Don't put pressure. Be involved. Let your kids, your nephews and nieces be involved in the business. And remember, kids' interests evolve over life. I joked around, but I mean seriously, I'm still a big kid as I don't know what I'm going to do the next day. Always leave the door open. And also as your kids are approaching senior year of college, support them as they might be very systematically have other aspirations where they might know which graduate school or which PhD program or which multinational other family business they want to learn from on a compare and contrast, and then they'll determine their re-entry point, if it's still valid, back into your family business.
You said that your average students are 18 to 25 years old. If they have reservations about joining the family business, maybe immediately after graduation, what would you tell them?
Sure. Again, I can't generalize. I'll listen, and it depends also of what the family makeup looks like. Let me share with you 2 examples of that. I just read a great article on this wonderful opera singer domestically. She grew up in a 200-year-old family farm in Kentucky. After so many years singing, she realized, you know what? My passion chose me, but I'm no longer passionate about singing. And she's back in the family business following the death of her dad, and she is back doing it. On the other side, in Mexico City, a 50-year-old accordion repair business. One gentleman who's been around music his entire life. He'll serve all, whether you can pay the bill or not. That's not the social purpose. His son has been in the business learning from dad since he was 12 years old. Continuity and legacy from within 2 different sides of the Americas.
Patrick, thank you very much.
Greg, thank you. A Happy New Year to you and your family.
Patrick Abouchalache, lecturer at Boston University Questrom School of Business, where he teaches family business.
Are you a problem solver? Do you see the big picture and the small details? Want to turn big data into big decisions? Take AI to the boardroom. Translate rocket science into the science of business? Build your career at digital speed with a Master of Science in Business Analytics. Be ready for careers like analytics consultant, data science, analytics strategist, data translator, BI analyst, technical business analyst. 10 months and you're in business analytics.
For the parents or grandparents who are running a family business, it is their everything. But do the children look at it the same way? We're on location with Tya Kusumah in Los Angeles, who's studying as part of the Boston University New Media Ventures program. And welcome to the Language of Business.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. Very honored to be here.
What are your thoughts on the family business from the children's perspective?
Right, both of my parents actually established a hospitality business in Indonesia. We are moving on event management, hotel, and also hospitality management and services.
So do you have the same reverence for the family business that your parents do?
I'm actually doing my own thing right now in LA. So both of my parents are on hospitality. My sister is too on hospitality. I'm one of the part of the family that's doing a little bit more different. That's why I'm doing media venture here. Most of my career is in media. And I found out about this program a while back. And I decided to do maybe I should do my own thing.
Is it 100% certainty that after you graduate, or maybe a few years later, that you will join the family business?
We're still deciding on it. Both of my parents do hope that I can be a part of the business as well.
We're also lucky to be joined with Henny Kusumah as well as Imba Kusumah. How important is it to you that family almost exclusively is involved with the business?
Actually, we started this business 7 years ago. We hope that this business will run forever. That's why the family will come to the business, so the business will be long forever.
What advice would you offer for someone who wants to start a family business, especially as it relates to children?
Oke. Jadi sarannya itu kalau family business itu adalah satu.
So she said that a family business core message is actually a heritage. It has to go from one generation to another. So the advice that she has that they have for a family business is to make sure that the family will continue the heritage. Make sure that the business can be carried on from one generation to another generation, and every generation has to carry their business.
Being the child of a family business brings with it lots of pressure. The children might want to pursue their own path, but on the other hand, not let down their parents. The parents, of course, want to see the business continue and would love to have that pass on to a family member. How do you handle that tension?
Being the first daughter of an Asian parent that worked their entire life to bring me where I am, it's already very heavy. Balancing it is not even an art. I feel like personally for me, it's more into finding the parts of the family business that actually align with what I want to do.
Henny, it's not uncommon in family businesses to collaborate with others. Do you plan or are you currently collaborating with other Indonesian entrepreneurs? Do you gain inspiration from them? The longest ever family business is a ryokan in Japan. Are you perhaps taking inspiration from the Japanese?
Sebenarnya inspirasi awalnya itu dari Marriott. Waktu ayah kerja di Marriott, ayah tuh terinspirasi dari.
So my father used to work. He start working in Marriott, and he saw how the business passed on to the sons and all that from Marriott into GW Marriott, and then it's become a professional, all entire entity without the family out of it. This is their core inspiration, and that's why they want to make Moritz the way that it is. But for both of them, for both of my parents, they didn't want it to go fully professional. They wanted to still be a part of the family.
Tya, Henny, Imba, thank you so much for joining us today on The Language of Business.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you.
Big choices after college, right? Grad school, maybe? Soar from your undergraduate major to a great career in business. Biomedical engineer to healthcare analyst. Health science to clinical systems analyst. Mechanical engineer to solutions engineer. Before you know it, you can have a master's degree in management studies. 9 months and you're in business.
Our next guest always believes that family comes first. That's a very noble belief when things are going well, but what happens when things are potentially going sideways? Is that something you could always uphold? We welcome Daryl Quek to The Language of Business. And Daryl, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
You grew up in multiple countries. You're originally from Malaysia. How did different cultures and your experiences influence what you're doing now?
Well, for me, culture always comes first. That means that family comes first. When I come over here, right about age of 11, I always have those mindset. But culture is really different for both countries. Well, I think of it as like American friends are very independent compared to my Asian friends. Asian friends that are more rely with their families and their parents. But I do think that there's pros and cons on both sides.
But when things are going well, it's pretty easy to say family first. What happens if business isn't going terribly well? Are you still able to follow, as I said earlier, those noble accomplishments and noble goals?
For my family business, there's always cons. There's always conflict in between my family business. And what we try to do is communicate effectively to do things both and well, not only our family members, but we also have to take care of our non-family members. We always have to hear what others have to say. We always try to take advice from other people, and we try to move on from that. And then whether or not it's a great idea, it's all depend on the upper management.
Do the non-family members feel like they own part of the restaurant, or to them is it just a job?
We treat all of our members as a family. We want them to feel like they're in a family zone, not just a worker place. We don't want them to feel pressure or anything. There's going to be a day where you're not going to make money. There's going to be a day where you make tons of money. We always tell them this kind of way. Of course, there are some times they're not happy. So that's why there's always communications.
Here in the United States, diversity, equity, and inclusion is very popular right now. Being of Malaysian descent, being of Asian descent, has that affected the way that you and your family run your businesses?
When we first started our business in Concord, Massachusetts, and it's very, very, very heavy majority of white population. When we first got in, they are very protected, very segmented within their own community. But we want to share our culture to the community. As the day goes on, they kind of look differently, even though there's cons in the beginning of the place. However, I think now it's been a good shape.
What lessons did your parents impart on you in order to successfully get through all of that?
Okay, there's two takeaway lessons that I learned from my parents' perspective. The first one is don't judge the book by its cover. Because we're Asian people, there's not a lot of Asian people in our community. They believe that they're not ready for the change. That's what it is. Not ready for the innovation. Secondly, is to never give up. They were thought about giving up on the business when they first opened. However, because of the innovation and marketing, they're willing to stick with their plan. They really trust their workers. They're very thankful for our workers, especially all our chef, our host people, as well as our bartender. So we really are thankful for them until this day too. Without them, we wouldn't be able to operate our business very successfully and stably.
Family recipes are often the crown jewel of any successful restaurant. To what extent, Daryl, do you consider these to be assets of the business or just menu items?
There's a lot of secret recipe in every restaurant. And ours is unique because my mom actually focused on beverages. My dad focused on food. My mom makes a really good Mai Tai. Not only Mai Tai, she also invented cucumber Cosmo. On the other hand, my dad focused on food. One of our food is Hainanese chicken with rice, which is a Malaysian dishes. Not only that, we also have our unique curry dishes. Of course, I do heavily think that recipe is a heavy asset. My mom think that never sell the recipe is the best because it's our own cuisine, it's our own cultures, and that's what customer loves it. They come to our restaurant to enjoy the environment, the food, the drinks, etc., etc. So yes, recipe is a really huge asset in the restaurant industry.
Daryl, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Daryl Quek, current undergraduate business student and potentially future owner of a family business. If your parents and grandparents are entrepreneurs, after you graduate from college, is it 100% certainty that you will be joining the family business? We're on location with Beatriz Iglesias García, and welcome to the Language of Business.
Thank you very much, Greg.
You are originally from Spain and have studied in multiple countries. Why did you come to the United States, and why are you currently at the Questrom School of Business?
Well, I have to say my dad actually studied here. He went to Suffolk. And ever since I can remember, he's emphasized the importance of leaving your comfort zone. And he's a big fan of Boston. He loves it here. And now that I'm here, I have to say I'm very glad I came here.
Your family runs Folder, which is essentially the equivalent of Staples in Spain. How do family businesses in Europe differ from their counterparts in the US?
Well, I have to say Spain is much smaller than the US. You have to think that Spain is a little bit smaller than Texas, and families in general tend to be closer. We don't have that culture of living abroad when you go to college, which you mostly do in the US. So that makes families be closer together, which can be very good. But at the same time, it also has its trade-offs because each individual has different goals. So when working together, you have to be very smart and keep on the communication going in order to make a business be effective.
It's rare for a family business successfully to make it 2 generations, let alone a third. Is it 100% certainty that you and or your siblings will become the 3rd generation?
After these past 2 years, what I've come to learn is that 100% doesn't exist anymore. My answer would be, I would love to, because I feel like I have to contribute. And after seeing my dad create his own business and wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning, not complaining because it's what he likes to do, I have to say I want that to create jobs and to create wealth in general. But the office supply is an industry that It's currently on the edge because the world is changing very fast. So you have to look at technology and have to look at society.
Beatriz, you have a sister. Are her feelings about what to do post-graduation the same or different as yours as it relates to career or entering the family business?
I would have to say, yes, they are. In fact, just over this break, my dad and her are talking about creating their own business. In Spain, we have this typical thing that's called the calamari sandwich. And they're currently looking for stores to rent and to open their new business. So because she graduates this year. So yeah, she also thinks about joining the family business or opening a new one.
Given that your father is CEO and your grandmother is the founder, the fact that you were educated outside of the United States, is that an advantage or a disadvantage from their perspective?
An advantage 100%. My dad has always said, come back when you have something to add to the company. You cannot just come here and be my daughter. If you come here, you're going to be a businesswoman. So they live in your country, meeting new cultures, maybe the business that we currently have can be transformed into another business because the network of people and stores is there.
You and your sister have a completely different perspective on technology than your parents or your grandparents. If one or both of you decides to go on the family business, what do you think the business needs not only now, but also over the next decade in terms of staying current?
Well, the thing is that the issue, I think, is at the core because the office supply business relies on paper. You write things down, so you need a pen. You print things out, so you need ink. The thing is that right now you can sign contracts on your computer. So the question would be, do we need to change the whole business? And when would we need to do that? So I think we're going to see an amazing change in what the business actually does, what the business activity is. And I think that's where my sister and I come in because I come from Boston. And I say, oh, maybe we can cover this necessity in the market and bring it to Spain. So I think it's going to be a radical change.
Beatriz, what best practices have you and your family learned over the years in terms of attracting and retaining non-family members to join the business?
I would have to say, Folder is a franchise model. So attracting new people that want to join the business is essentially what they need to do in order to expand. So I think the key for new people to join the business is eagerness to have their own business. And people are your biggest assets. So it doesn't matter the company that you have or you're working, people, you can always learn from people.
Beatriz, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Beatriz Iglesias García talking about family business planning and execution and differences between Europe and the United States.
Support for the Language of Business is from Boston University Questrom School of Business. We're also available as a podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get podcasts. Thanks for watching.